welcome to Time and Entanglement. Kathy here, and I'm looking at a couple of topics that relate directly to our reality. So, where do they relate to our reality and what do we not know about them yet? Okay, time, first of all, time doesn't exist in the straight line linear format that we experience. Yeah? Time doesn't go from the past to the future in a straight line. Oh no. It's a torus. It has waves of past and future coming and converging into the present moment. And that's kind of illustrated by this light cone, which is a very familiar diagram if you're a physicist, and if you have a look at any scientific papers, you'll see this light cone on them. It represents what happens in terms of time progression in scientific speak, as it were. So the outer edge of the light cone is light speed. That's the theoretical limit to which anything can travel in terms of time. And anywhere within this cone that isn't right in the middle, i.e. stationary and not moving, falls within a moving quotient of time measurement, essentially. So anything that's in motion is measurable within time, okay, because it's in the context of moving from the past to the future. So it's a little bit of a paradox, because that essentially means that this present timeline here is the only one that is in existence. And if it's the only one that's in existence, then does that mean that it's the only one in which particles are actually real? Is particle reality, all this stuff that we see around us, the stuff that we're made of, does it only exist as particle in the present moment of time? Now, that's a relationship that time has with the rest of the quantum world, and it's open for exploration. But of course it relates very directly to us, because how we perceive time and what we do with it is affected by the way we view its reality. So what about entanglement? Okay, Einstein famously hated entanglement. He called it spooky action at a distance. And he tried to keep his distance from it as much as possible, didn't want anything to do with it. But of course, by the time quantum mechanics came along, the cat was out of the bag, and physics would never be the same again. So how does that relate to us? Okay, well, this looks like a can of worms, or the top part of a can of worms. And it represents all the particles that are potentially entangled within a seething sea of particles. And this is essentially what happens in experiments. The entanglement principle can be isolated between particles that are swimming around amongst lots of other particles. That's what we do, isn't it? That's what we do in society. And we have relationships and interactions that entangle us with others. So there is a correlation there in amongst this seething sea of particles, or this seething sea of humanity. We've got some kind of parallel action going on. Well, have you ever had an experience that involved any version of entanglement? Now, you may well have done. And if you have, then I'd like to know about it. Please leave a comment after this video and share what your experiences are that relate to entanglement. I've had some, and over on the Quantumology group in Facebook, I've pledged to enlighten the group members on a little bit more of my personal fabric as and when we hit a magical number. So, if you want to know more, head to the group and find out. Anyway, the whole question of entanglement relating to us is a bridge that's yet to be crossed, because it relates to how we measure these things experimentally. Now, it's difficult to measure experimentally what happens with our relationships in entangled contexts. But with particles, it's just simply been proven that two particles, irrespective of the distance between them, will react simultaneously to any given stimuli. It's a kind of a twinning effect, entanglement. It's two particles that are fused, bonded in some ways, so that they react simultaneously at the same time to any given stimuli, no matter how far apart they are. Now, what does that actually mean? Because in some context or another, if this is simultaneous, it's instantaneous. So does it break the light speed limit? Now that's a big question. It's a big, meaty bone of contention out there in the science community. It's heavily debated. And some scientists will say, no, it's got nothing to do with light. It's got nothing to do with time. It's just information. The particles just exchange information, and that's it. Okay, really? Interesting. So what is this information then? This is by now familiar to a lot of people who've been seeing my videos, because you'll know that any time you see slices of toast, I'm talking about the multiverse, or Everett's interpretation, the many worlds theory, whatever you like to call it. And I've put it here because, again, this is a factor that relates to all of us. Okay, if there are parallel options, probabilities, opportunities to be explored across the whole continent of multiverses that are open to us, then we need to know that they're there. Because if we know that they're there, it might not change fundamentally the reality in which we exist, but it might well change our perception of it and our use of time and our use of life, the way in which we operate. So all these factors build together a picture, and it's a picture that I think is so worth exploring. Now, Stephen Hawking famously, or relatively famously, came up with the idea that information can escape black holes. So you'll find Hawking radiation being comprised of information. But what exactly is information? We use information. If you share information, you understand what we mean by it. But in the quantum mechanical term, what is information? What does it constitute? Now, that's another question that would be lovely to be answered, wouldn't it? And again, it relates directly to us and our lives, what we do with them. So, I'm asking really for your contributions to this discussion. Share your thoughts on the comments. Just respond to this video with an idea of your own. Where can this go? Because at the end of the day, we have to be involved in an exploration of quantum mechanics as it relates directly to our lives. These two contexts irrefutably relate directly to our lives. So let's make this interesting. Let's take it to the bridge. Let's step up to the plate with it and see what happens. So I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care of yourselves, have fun with quantum, as always, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because there's more of Series 2 on the way. Love you loads, see you later, bye!